Hi, I'm Brandon Svec. I'm the National Director of Retail Analytics for CoStar Group. And my team and I aggregate up all of the data and information that's coming into CoStar, and we help the world make sense of it. So we guide the firm's forecasting, the firm's thought leadership, and strategy around retail real estate. I think data is critical to just the knowledge and understanding of the industry as to what's going on out there, right? The retail sector is highly fragmented, right? CoStar's tracking over 1.5 million properties across the country alone, right? And for somebody to be able to aggregate up all of that information and make some sense of it in the macro trends, I think is a really critical role that we can play.
I'm curious, how do you guys think you're potentially different than all the other research that's out there on retail real estate, whether that comes from the large brokerage firms, other data analytics platforms? How do you see yourselves as a little bit different?
I think the main difference is that we take a census level approach to our database. So that means we're tracking every property on every block of every street in America. Typically, most research firms will either try and cover a part of the market, right? So they're only going to look at single tenant net lease, or they're only going to look at grocery anchored retail. We're looking at all property across the country, and I think our ability to track each of those properties and actually have the resources behind it to do it does make us a little different. As far as the brokerages go, typically we're working with our brokerage partners, so there's a lot of flow of information back and forth. So there's going to be some consistencies there, but a lot of times they are utilizing us as a data provider because it is so cumbersome to try and track the retail sector.
I'll ask the buzzword of the year. Do you think artificial intelligence is going to help, make this less of a fragmented space from a data perspective?
Yes, I think artificial intelligence will definitely help us bring different data sets together and I think make sense of them all under one umbrella. We're not there yet, and frankly, I think we're probably a little further away than what most people would like to think we are.
Different industries are ahead of us.
Right, exactly. We're in commercial real estate. We're always slow to adopt,
sure.
Right?
But a lot of the information, and you guys call on property owners.
Yes.
A lot of the information is not published anywhere for some artificial intelligence to go get it. They'd have to get it's undocumented. So I've always wondered, how do we get all this undocumented information in any system? And you guys have done that by picking up the phone, but there's still a ton of undocumented, or if it's documented, it's private documents, right? Leases are private contracts between
Absolutely.
people. They're not always recorded, and if they're recorded, only that there is a lease, not the information in the lease.
Yep.
And so, wouldn't artificial intelligence really be optimized if it had access to that? And the reality is, it's going to be hard to get access to that undocumented in the private to private contracts.
There will always be, I think, limitations in what we can expect from artificial intelligence in commercial real estate because of the fragmented nature of the data. And I don't think you're ever going to see a situation where a lot of that private lease information ever makes its way into the light of day.
Yeah.
So because of that, I think it is always going to be working with one hand behind its back, if you will. But I think it still can be a very powerful tool to help us understand what's going on in the world, to unlock data correlations and consistencies and things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to pick up on.
So we'll move on from artificial intelligence. If you're leaving ICSC, what is the one thing that you think is important positively and negatively for everyone to take away from here? What's the one positive you want everyone to take away, walk away from? Everyone should know this.
There is less retail space on market available today than at any point in time since before the great financial crisis. So if you're a tenant and you're looking for space, you have less options out there today than ever.
Love that one. Okay.
I thought you'd like that one.
I do. What is the one that you think is important to people that maybe is not so lollipops and rainbows?
We are still in the midst of the repricing coming from the interest rate rise that we've seen. And while some markets are highly competitive, and as such we've seen really bid-ask spreads be very thin, primarily in those Sunbelt markets,
And
grocery-anchored.
we're talking about investment sales,
Investment
not leasing.
sales,
Yep,
not
keep
leasing,
going.
yes. So we're still expecting to see a little bit more on the expansion of cap rates before it's all said and done. A lot of it's already priced into the deals they're being bid on, but we're not yet seeing it in the data, right? So I think if you're looking at that transaction data, expectation should be that cap rates will continue to trend up in that data for the next couple months. But as we start to look forward and we start to think about 18, 24, 36 months down the road, definitely I think the long-term trajectory is back down. And the nice thing sorry to cut you off there, but the nice thing is we didn't really see the rise in retail and grocery-anchored retail specifically that we've seen in other property types.
Sure. There was a rise. It just wasn't 3 caps like in multifamily.
Yes.
So I am curious, you said something in there that the deals people are making, there's a lag to the actual transaction data that happens. I don't know that everyone thinks about that. How long is that lag usually?
Typically about 6 months or so.
Okay. So the even though you might be hearing things today about terms and you're saying it's priced in, people aren't going to see that on paper until probably the end of this year.
Exactly. It won't come into my data, and I won't be able to take that to the world probably until Q3, Q4. But we know that it's what's already being quoted out there in the market today.
The rent's going up.
The rent is going up, and that is absolutely the case, right? I mean, we're coming off the back of 3 years of our strongest rent growth since before the Great Financial Crisis, right? So the rent is going up. But we are also seeing retailers get a lot more creative with their footprints. We're seeing retailers move outside of their typical box format. One that comes to mind is Five Below. They've been very creative in seeking out space and finding it, whether that be larger boxes, smaller boxes. Now I've even heard in-mall boxes. So definitely retailers recognize that there's a shortage of space, and they're getting creative and trying to fulfill that demand for it.